Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on Did You Know, the ESCO HVAC Podcast. One of the things that we have to pay special attention to when we're looking at the HVAC industry or preparing for a career in the HVAC industry is the support network that comes along with that, because it's not exactly traditional work. So we're spending some time today with Keith Haas. How are you, sir?
Very good. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. You, like myself, has been on both sides of what we do. You've been a technician. You're also a part-time educator. You get to see the challenges that you face as a technician and what it takes to have a good support network. And because when you get into the industry, there's not too many 9-to-5 jobs in our industry.
Not to start with, especially.
So let's talk about ways that we can make preparations for that. You and I were just talking before the podcast that I had a conversation a while ago with 3 high schoolers, that started their freshman year doing exploratory class, their freshman year of high school, and they went all through. Now they're in their senior year. They're doing apprenticeship programs with a contractor, and they're going to be graduating high school in a few months, and they're going to go out into the field as full-time technicians, and it's not going to be like a day at school anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like I said, it's never 9 to 5. It's always something. Anything can change at the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
So it's funny too, because you were talking about how young they were. I think they said there's a 93-year-old here as well, and
absolutely.
they're still here learning.
Yeah, Ray's around here someplace. I just ran into him, smiling, heading down the hallway.
Yep. So it's pretty impressive.
Yeah. So we've got 18 to 83 here.
Yep.
And that is pretty significant.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's talk about what things do we need when we're trying to be successful at what career that we are choosing now.
So I think HVAC is very different for every position. There's anything from residential service, commercial service, refrigeration. Each one is very unique and different in its own way. I think one of the things you have to do is find out where you fit into that.
Exactly.
I started off in residential.
Mm-hmm.
It was good for me. I learned the basics. I didn't like the sales portion of it.
Right.
I was not great at that part.
Yep, absolutely.
So moving to commercial after that was very easy
Get
transition.
you away from most of that, actually.
Yep. Most people, if you tell them that some machine that they need to make money is down, they don't care how much it costs. They just say,
get it done.
How fast?
Yep. Yeah, when can you get it here?
Yep, exactly. So it's a lot easier that way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really, like I said, every position is different. So it's hard to find that exact right mix of home-life balance, making good money, learning what you love to do, and working on that kind of equipment.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, every job is a little bit different, but for me, what I found was finding the right people, right place to work for. It took me a long time. I think I went through 3 different companies before I found the current company I'm with. I've been here for about 4 years now.
Yep.
But the biggest thing for me, I think I said, is find the right people. So for me, it was my wife probably was the first part.
Yep.
So with her,
what can you put up with, honey?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's start there.
She would love for me to be home right now.
Yeah,
but,
I know.
she was able to allow me to come out here to Vegas, which is I'm sure a lot of people can't come here just because it's in Vegas. So
yeah, I agree.
So that makes it a little bit harder. But she was supportive about it. I'm sure she would rather have me home, but it's awesome that she let me do that.
Yeah, I agree.
And then just finding like-minded people. I surrounded myself with a lot of trainers and educators. There's guys, when you're in the field, you can go to the bar, you can go to the classroom. A lot of times it was learning at your own pace. So I try to surround myself with people who would help me improve, help me build my career, and kind of work my way up that way.
Yeah.
And then also even just some of the stuff I never even thought of, the mental health part of it. It's a lot of stress, the hours are bad.
Yep.
So if you're fighting at home, you're fighting at work, it's just constant conflict at that point. My one good friend, Jeremy, he was always telling me to, he would actually talk to me about the emotional supportive stuff and more the emotional side. And just, a lot of us are just typical tough guys in the trade. We don't usually like opening up about that stuff.
I agree. But that's changed though, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I feel that has completely changed. You and I grew up in a generation where our mentors grew up in a pretty rough and rugged atmosphere.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. Yep.
And I don't know that there was a whole lot of productive out of that.
Probably not. No. Yeah.
And
Yep.
as we start realizing, the toll that it actually takes on the mind, and especially after we all went through, things that happened in 2020, we all started being a little bit more sensitive to,
Just more aware.
more aware to, emotional struggles, right? And how to actually work through those. And so I'm grateful for it. I think it's an amazing thing that we can, as grown men and women, have conversations about how this is actually affecting us.
Yep, absolutely. Before it was just, you kind of swallow your pride and get it done, and that was it.
Go get it done. Doesn't matter how long it takes. I now look back at my career, and the types of advice that I would give is when you're looking at your work-life balance, understand that you can make as much money as you want in this field if you're willing to work hard for it. But there is going to be some sacrifices when you do.
Absolutely.
And to be upfront and have people around you that's willing to have those conversations, mentors, people who've got experience in the industry that can tell you what will happen when you do decide to make choices like working lots and lots and lots of overtime, even if it's for the right reasons, even if it's for to get bills paid or to buy that vehicle that you now need for the teenager, whatever that actually is, that there can be those potential consequences when we're looking at lots of overtime for these nice big fat paychecks.
Right. That's all about the balance, is trying to find that right balance.
Yeah. And so when we look at that, understanding like what the career has to offer, what that role has to offer. And then I encourage people to challenge themselves to look at what roles can I now push myself into to get a better job where I can potentially work less hours and still be able to maintain. I was though almost 40 before I got to that point where I was becoming emotionally intelligent enough to actually focus on that. My last on-call 1 week, 95 and a half hours.
Right. Like we had
3,000 miles.
Yeah. And like at that point, it's not even worth it. I mean, you're too tired to spend the money. You're done at that point. Yeah.
Those paychecks were amazing. But when you're not spending time with your family and your kids are asking where you are and your friends are asking where you are, it is not always the best decision. And it took me a long time to get to that point where I understood what that was. And so I always encourage, as we continue to grow, to find those places that are that at least a potential mix. Right.
And I've had a lot of people not come into the field just because they hear about the on-call.
Yeah.
And it is bad. So there's bad days, there's good days, just like any other job. So it is, like I said, about that balance and trying to, I try to work with people and have them take a day or two of mine. I'll take a day or two of yours.
And that way around.
Yep. It's just a little bit more spread out that way.
Yeah. And I always recommend too, like when you're looking at jobs, right? Maybe I'm fresh out of school. Maybe I'm just looking at different employers. You don't always pick the employer that's going to pay the most money, right? Ask what those other things are. How much overtime am I going to be expected once I start running calls? Be very specific about that. What is my potential for advancements as I am here longer? What points do I need to meet? Like, what skills do I need to learn? What certifications do I need to add before I move into other roles? Because I want to be able to look at what this job can look like a year from now and 3 years from now.
And that's one of the things I wanted to touch base on is as an educator, a lot of times I hear, or even just a trainer, that, people will say, that's not my job. And within reason, some things are not our job to do, but just because you haven't gotten paid to learn a skill yet or to do a job yet, a lot of people won't do that job.
Right.
But why would a contractor pay you until you know how to do that? So you have to go, it kind of burns at both ends, where you have to take the time, invest in yourself, and learn how to do it, and then prove that you can do it in the field, and then maybe the pay comes after that. But most people will not pay you for something you're learning to do, or you have to be somewhat competent before that.
Yeah, before you achieve that.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, and that's right. And so when we look at the amount of time that we invest in, say, social media alone, right? So just asked all three of these apprentices, approximately how many hours a day do you spend on your phone? And it was pretty unanimous. It was about 5 hours a day.
That's a lot. Yeah.
So when we think about 5 hours a day, what could I do with 1 or 2 hours of that on my own for education, because we're using social media for personal entertainment. And so why wouldn't we use some of that for personal education?
Yep. And nowadays too, there's so much of it that's free and available on the phones, on online. It's readily available. It's entertaining. A lot of, especially some of the people that are here, they have very entertaining,
sort of great content.
And there's so many different channels, trainers, teachers, educators. They all put their stuff out there for free, or not all of them, but
a lot.
Many, Yep. So at least a free sample, a trial. There's so many different opportunities to learn stuff, and I try to preach that too. Is you can spend 4 hours looking at cars or whatever online, and just spend a little bit of that time, look at some of these trainers, their material that's out there, and it's still entertaining. You can still get the same dopamine.
You're still on your phone. That's
Yep.
it. You're still getting the same dope. You're still interacting. You're still doing things.
And just you're learning. You're accidentally learning.
Accidentally learning. I love that.
Yep.
We actually looked at that as one of our goals for 24. And so we actually implemented a mobile access, app to be able to access learning from the HVACR Learning Network, right? So all of this content that we have on our learning network that used to be used privately, especially in schools on laptops, they can actually do from your phone now.
Right.
Tons of free courses in there too. And so if you're already looking for something to do on your phone, start putting that to use. Like if you're on that employer, right? You found this right job and you want to excel in your job. Ask, all right, what do I need to achieve to get to my next level? And then go home and just do it.
Yep. And like you said, most of the time, asking doesn't hurt. The worst thing that's going to happen is they say no. And then the best thing is happen, they say yes. And you
exactly.
Get, for me, it was, I had no experience coming into the field. So I took extra classes. I think we took 2 morning classes in my previous company. So I would take 4 classes, and then I'd work the 11 to 8 shift. So it was a lot of hard days, a lot of, early mornings, but I think it really benefited and paid off from that.
Yeah. I mean, you think about what we're learning along the way and those friends that you're developing, friend relationships that you're developing in that process. It's all great stuff, man.
Yeah.
So what else do we think? So when we're talking about building out like that whole foundation around us, right? It's important to be looking for the right businesses to work for. It's important to make sure that we're having these discussions at home. You're going to take that new job, you better go home and start making sure it's okay with everyone around you if you're gone in the middle of the night.
Ask the right questions about it.
Yes. And what does on-call mean? Does on-call mean that I'm going to be out in the middle of the night? Many of them are going to say, yeah, it absolutely is going to. Am I going to be going on the weekend and holidays? Yes, absolutely.
And is it one night or is it 7 nights? I mean, that's a big difference too.
It is. And that will vary between contractors and the type of work that you do. So understanding what those commitments is just as important. Yeah, I truly agree.
Another thing about the networking part of it too is most of my friends from the industry, we all started at one company and we've all branched out now. So I have people at different vendors, different education places, different companies, and each one has their own skill or specialty. So if you're ever in a jam, it's good to have your friends' phone numbers and just reach out quickly. It's a lot faster than trying to call some of the tech supports. And
that's it. I was talking about that with Louise Keller from UEI earlier, that every person here is a specialty of something, right? That's why they're here. They've gotten really good at what they're doing, and now they're giving back. They're sharing it, or they're learning. They're here seeking to learn. And so, picking up on what those skills are of the people around you are very, very significant in your own support network.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. And the fact that they're here, they're the educators that are still learning. That's another thing I wish that more of the younger generation would do and understand is this is changing so much that you're never done learning. It's always something new, something different. Once you've learned it, they've already thrown that book away and they're starting again.
On something else. Yeah, no, absolutely. We're the same way. We keep looking at our curriculum going, okay, we've got some things that have been updated in a few years and it's overdue. 10 years ago, you'd look at something and go, we'll redo this, every 5, 6, 7 years, and it'll probably have something to do. Now it's like, okay, every couple of years we ought to be looking at things.
I think I was looking at an old book and it still had like mercury bulbs in it, and there's still a lot of that out there. So you have to learn the old stuff, the new stuff, and everything in between a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, cool. Anything else we want to dive into today?
No, that was it. I appreciate the time, and thank you for walking me through this. I was very nervous to speak, but
it's a lot of fun. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Sharing stories is, one of our growth strategies.
Absolutely.
It really is, and be able to hear experiences that have been with other people are a really important part of our own personal growth.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.